Well, the leader of the Scottish Conservatives joins me now. Ruth Davidson, can I just ask you about something that's come up this morning? There's a House of Commons cross-party committee on Brexit has produced a report saying that Britain should, or the British government should unilaterally safeguard the position of EU nationals living in Britain. Is that something you would support?
Well, I've said right from the start that I want to make sure that people have the reassurances they need. That's why I was so pleased that the Prime Minister tried, ahead of moving Article 50, to get that agreement, not just for EU nationals here, but for Brits that are living abroad as well. And I thought it was a real shame that other countries within the EU said they didn't want to do that. But I was very pleased that the Prime Minister, when she laid out her 12-point plan for the Brexit negotiations, had that in there as one of her key objectives and one of the ones she wanted to get done first.
But do you agree with the House of Commons cross-party committee that Britain should unilaterally guarantee the position?
Well, I have to say I haven't read the report to which you're referring to, so I'm not quite sure what's in it. I'm not in the House of Commons, so I'm sorry about that, Gordon. But I've said that we want to make sure that we've got the reassurance that people need right here. I'm pleased to have seen that David Davis has come out and said for people who are already living here, of course, you know, that have been here for a number of years, you know, the scaremongering that's been going on, that there might be some change to their circumstances is not true. And the clear reassurances that the Prime Minister's made, one, she tried to get this done even before we moved Article 50, but two, that she wants to make sure that's one of the things that she gets done absolutely first.
You said shortly after the referendum last year, you said you wanted guarantees for EU nationals living in Britain, and you wanted them, your phrase was pretty quick.
Absolutely, and I'm really pleased to have seen
that
the Prime Minister...
Well,
the Prime Minister tried to get it done ahead of even moving Article 50. She said she wants it to be, absolutely the first thing that happens.
What the House of Commons committee and the Lords are saying is they want Britain to just do it unilaterally.
Well, I think the House of Commons committee, I absolutely respect it. I have to say I haven't read that report this morning, and I'm sorry about that. I don't sit in the House of Commons. However, the Prime Minister also has to look to the 2.7 million Brits that live abroad and get reassurances for them too. Now, she said that she wanted to do this right now, even before the process started. I think it's a real shame that other countries said no to that. And she's also said that it's in that 12-point plan, right at the top of what she wants to get done first, to get it done, as I say, pretty quickly. And, I think it's a real shame that other countries said no to do this right now. But I think what's important is the UK government has come out very strongly and said for people already living here, don't listen to the scaremongering. Those of you who've been here for a number of years, that's not going to change.
Now, the Scottish Government has submitted a paper which the British Government's considering on Brexit, and it proposes a mechanism by which Scotland could stay in the European Free Trade Area and therefore the European Economic Area and get access to the single market that way while remaining in the UK. Do you think there's any merit at all in what the Scottish Government's proposing?
Well, the Scottish Government paper had a number of recommendations in it. A lot of them actually made it into that 12-point plan that I was talking about, things like...
Yes, but what I'm talking about was their preferred option.
Sure, I was going on to say, we also, within the Scottish Conservative Party, brought forward an expert panel review of looking specifically at trade, and they came to a slightly different view on what they thought was best, because the most important issue for Scotland is making sure we stay part of our biggest trading bloc, which is the UK, not our third biggest trading bloc, which is the EU.
Right, but again, I come back to this point. What I'm really getting at is, are the Scottish Government's attempts to get the British Government to agree and to negotiate on its behalf the particular deal which they propose, do you think that's a waste? Is that actually going to happen, or is the British Government, in your view, and should the British Government just say no?
Well, the British Government and the Scottish Government, with all the devolved administrations as part of the Joint Ministerial Council, are having ongoing conversations. That paper that had a number of recommendations in it that was put forward by the Scottish Government is...
Yes, but I'm asking about the key one.
No, I know. And the Welsh put forward, the Welsh Government, actually joint Labour Plaid Cymru, put forward a paper which is also under there. Now, our expert review that came back last week took a different course. Obviously, in terms of having read through that, the work that was gone in, it was led by a former ambassador, a trade emissary, a chap that also helped run the Scottish Whisky Association for a time, was saying that there were more important things to look after than what the Scottish Government has had. There's, absolutely no surprise to any of your viewers that Nicola Sturgeon and I have disagreements about a number of things, not least in some of the things that she's asking the UK Government to consider.
Now, you've said before on this programme that you accept the Scottish Government has the right to hold another independence referendum, although of course you don't think that they should do it. And you've also said you don't think the British government should block the Scottish government for doing that. But I'm just curious, do you think there is a case for the British government, given it will have to give approval through an order, to say, well, you can have a referendum, but just not while we're negotiating Brexit? It might be in the interest of everybody if you just wait until we know what the Brexit deal is.
Well, I think when you ask me that question on a day when yet another poll shows that a support for a second independence referendum has fallen, today's BMG shows it's only a quarter of Scots would want to be dragged back to that divisive situation. I actually think the question here should be for Nicola Sturgeon. Are you going to stand up and be the First Minister for all of Scotland?
I'm hoping we'll talk to Nicola Sturgeon on the occasion of her party conference. I'm asking you, do you think the British government would be justified in saying, again, you know, you've got a right to hold a referendum, but not while we're negotiating a Brexit deal. You can wait till we know what the Brexit deal is so that people in the UK as a whole and in Scotland know exactly what it is that's being voted on.
Well, both myself and the Prime Minister have always believed and recognised and said the right to Scots self-determination. That's why, you know, in 2011, when there was a clear mandate, there was a majority in the Parliament, all parties, including myself, voted that a referendum should take place and a negotiated process happened. But we're not at that situation. The majority of people in Scotland don't want this. They're telling the First Minister time and time
again, you're
again.
not really addressing... I mean, look, putting it to you bluntly, Nicola Sturgeon argues she should be able to hold a referendum whenever she likes.
No, I'm not taking that, Gordon. That's unfair to say that I'm not answering the question. What we're saying is what I've always said, that of course there could be another referendum, but the question for the First Minister is, should there be another referendum? And at the moment, when she's got no clear mandate, when she lost her majority, when the majority of Scots say they don't want it, she shouldn't have another referendum.
Sure, she argues she should be able to have one, and she should be able to have it whenever she likes, should she?
Well, look, the power for holding referendum is held at Westminster. So in terms of where a hypothetical, sometime in the future, referendum to happen, you would still need the process that happened last time around, which is an agreement between the two governments for those powers to pass over. Now, if she wants to change that, she should have put that forward as an idea in the Smith Commission. She didn't, and neither did her party, to say that the Scottish Parliament should be in charge of holding future referenda. So I don't think she can argue that now, if that's the point that you're making. But in terms of, you know, am I going to try and do and help the SNP do what they've been doing for the last 9 months, which is try and make it seem that another independence referendum is inevitable? And I'm not helping them out. That's not my job. I'm actively opposing this because I'm on the side of the majority of people of Scotland that don't want this.
Okay.
And I tell you what, if she does try and call one, I think she's going to take a massive hit from it because Scots don't want dragged back there. They've told us time and time again they don't want dragged back there. And if she moves against the popular opinion in Scotland and stops acting as a First Minister and acts solely as a leader of the SNP, then I think she'll pay a heavy price for it.
Can I assume that you would not be in favour of another referendum being held on the basis of yes is pro-independence and no is stay in the UK?
Look, my job and my focus is to stop a second referendum happening because we made a decision 3 years ago. We were told it was going to last for a generation and the people of Scotland don't want another one and the Scottish Government doesn't have a mandate to hold one. I'm not going to start answering hypotheticals about what the wording of a question that I don't want asked is going to be. I'm not playing that game, Gordon. I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to go there.
Something you've just said there, of course, the last referendum was held under the Edinburgh Agreement, and one of the stipulations of that agreement was that both sides would respect the result. Do you think the Scottish Government and the SNP have breached the Edinburgh Agreement?
I don't think that they're respecting the result. I genuinely don't. And I think that the first sign of just how the pursuit that they were going to do, just how cynical their pursuit of a second independence referendum was going to be, we saw on the day after the Brexit vote, because Nicola Sturgeon stood up in Butte House. Some votes were still being counted around the country, and said that she had already instructed civil servants in Scotland to draw up a second referendum bill. She didn't want to absorb the results. She didn't want to talk to the public. She didn't want to listen to what they had to say. She didn't want to come to Parliament. She had already instructed them before people had had their breakfast and gone to work that Friday morning. It is absolutely cynical, and I think she will pay a heavy price for it.
There is a perception, and not just amongst the SNP or amongst supporters of independence, that the British government has not been very subtle in the way it's played this, that it could come to Scotland and say, look, you've got an interest in this. Here's what we're proposing to devolve to Scotland as part of the repatriation of powers from Brussels. Now, I know you'll say that's still up for grabs and all the rest of it, but the perception is that the British government is coming over as just saying, and indeed Theresa May in a conference speech, as just saying no. Do you think they should be a bit more imaginative in coming and perhaps, from your point of view, making it much more difficult for Nicola Sturgeon to call another referendum by saying, look, here's a shed load of things that we think could be repatriated. We think it's in the interests of the people of Scotland. And let's get your response to that.
Well, see, I think the way in which you've asked that question shows just the difference between the UK and the Scottish governments and the narrow political goal that funds and fuels everything that the SNP do, and the practical considerations of people working in Scotland and trying to make a living here that the UK government is trying to protect. Because the Prime Minister's speech, she said absolutely categorically, as she said before, not a single power that is being held, that is currently held in Holyrood is going anywhere else. And more powers will come. But in the first instance, powers currently held at Brussels go back to the member states, so that's the UK government. And then mature discussions happen about how best they can be across the
We're out of time. Just can I have, quick one-word answers? One-word answers.
Okay,
I know you find this difficult.
I do. I'm a journalist. I talk a lot.
If there's another independence referendum, you've said the SNP will take a hit. How much do you think the stay in the UK side would win by?
I think there's every opportunity to win by more because the economic case has absolutely collapsed.
By more than 10%?
I think there's every opportunity, yes.
And you will be the next First Minister of Scotland, yes or no?
I've told my team that that's what we're working towards in 2021, to be a proper, professional, alternative government, a real choice for the people of Scotland, and one that puts Scotland's businesses and its people first, not a narrow political ideology of independence first.
You had your best determined face on there, but you avoided... what you didn't say was, yes, I am going to be the First Minister.
Oh, come back to me on the run-up to 2021. And when I worked in the army, there was a phrase that was, train hard, fight easy. So the hard work starts now, 4.5 years out from the election, and we'll be fit to fight for that election in 2021, and we will be a proper alternative government for Scotland.
All right, Ruth Davidson, thanks very much indeed.